So, like when somebody over enthusiastically tanks the whole notion of the thing you're trying to do because they try too hard? This might be that. Welcome. There was such a pain in the ass uploading the video from my phone yesterday that I ended up bringing out the whole spaceship into the shed, and that turned into putting the hat on, and now it's hard not to turn this into a live stream and maintain the integrity of the experiment and like Federalist Papers nature of the correspondence. But to the extent I can, here we go.
Mr. Griswold.
That's crotch shot shit.
I'm using my old phone to pull up my notes. So I went through and tried to take notes. My first note is when we do a 10-minute video, every word and sentence is a potential node in a tree of branches. So I went through and tried taking notes. My first note is when we do a 10-minute video, every word and sentence is a potential node in a tree of branches. And we are doing a POC.
Just so. In fact, there are, if we slice and dice things right, it shouldn't be hard to segment the long strand of this back and forth conversation into interest-based nodes in a mind map navigated whatever. Yes, but we're these are monkeys. These are your memory trees, and we're sending our monkey minds up them. And I'm hoping we climb to somewhere in this dialogue, not just explore. I hope I hope we're climbing towards something in this round two.
A POC is important. You use the word prototype. I like POC. And you can see.
Now, this is the part it goes into naivety signaling. And this is part of it. It's like I think you mean proof of concept, but it's like one of the first time you're using POC in this conversation. And it's like when you're writing a paper about it, the first time you use it, you use the whole thing, and then you put it in parentheses afterwards, and then every other time you reference it, you can just use the referent. But like, do you also know that it means people of color, and people like they identify as that they it's a referent smokescreen. But Bureau of Land Management. Bureau of Land Management. Bureau of Land Management. So yeah, proof of concept, piece of crap. The other one. I don't like to use O's of. I don't think warrants a spot in the acronym. Because then the sacred order of fraternal transparency becomes soothed. And I don't like that.
POS theology. And that's what I'm referencing. But we should actually call that POC theology, in my opinion. So my team at work, I think Mr. Griswold is the one who actually made me start paying attention to acronyms more. But POC can be proof of concept, but it's also a piece of crap. So I work with 3 other software engineers, and every time someone says POC, they may now have this imagery this kind of thought come into mind, but nobody else in the organization realizes it, so it's kind of funny. But I had an old boss that he emphasized the importance of a POC. He said it was throwaway because it wasn't until you built it 3 times until you had something that was good, easy to maintain, um, easy to extend.
These here easy to make. The goal. It wasn't until you've done it 3 times that you have, and then there's a set of goals. Let's call those virtues, right? Those I think we in practice need to delineate more and better, like the nature of those virtues. Sorry.
Because those first iterations, they allow you to see if it's valuable or not, because you might want to throw it away. And if it is valuable, you can then kind of rebuild it for scale. So you really want to know about the value of it. So these things we're doing are POC, and I could visualize a tree, a visual tree, which allows for the conversation to branch out and grow. Instead of it being linear, it can end up becoming this giant picture that grows out over time. Those people who get stuck in a linear way of thinking, they have a hard time seeing the big picture. Reciprocity of attention. Gavin is frustrated when high status people can't hear.
All right. So yes, I'm on board. This is I said would be great with like a clip becomes a talking point, and then like anybody could add. There's lots of potentials. The transition. Why don't you start using studio mode and up your game? Up my game? What does that even mean? I don't know. Let's watch the man with his feet touching.
For me. Yeah. On high seven, those people who get stuck in a linear way of thinking, they have
those people. Those people, Gavin. Let's talk about those people. Those people. No, from here to here. And you press transition. Those people. Watch that. Watch this whole.
I have a hard time seeing the big picture. This giant picture that grows out over time. Those people who get stuck in a linear way of thinking, they have a hard time seeing the big picture.
Those people who get stuck. Those people who get stuck. That's a thing. People don't like it when you say shit like that. Those people don't like it when you say things like that.
Time seeing the big picture. Reciprocity of attention. Gavin is frustrated when high status people can't hear me. Yeah, when high status people can't hear me. This is just pragmatism. So like, if I send a message to John Vervaeke, and he doesn't respond, that's a signal to me that I can only receive from him, and I can't question him about what he means, and I can't provide the feedback so that his ideas become better. So it's just practical that if I don't,
you are correct that it's a signal, but the things you're taking, the things you're reading of the signal are not only a signal of his status toward you, but also your status in the network. So it's kind of it'd be like You're rolling up to a level 60 pit boss as a level 3 shaman, and ignoring you is a signal, but it's not. There's something there. It needs more exploring.
I don't want to. Yeah, I am trying to be a student and a teacher, and I'm trying to make sense. And for me, I have a hard time going off and reading Plato because I don't have access to Plato. I can't ask Plato the questions that I would ask, and therefore I would rather engage with a person and have that dialogos so that I can ask the questions. Quest. I can go on the quest, do the participatory. When you're reading a book from a dead guy, you're not doing the participatory.
That is false. That is false. But no, you're in studio mode. You transition. Look, you got a slider. You go. Ooh, okay. Um, that is false. When you're reading a book, you are in participation with everyone who's ever read the book. It's on a different plane of being, but it's part. It becomes part of who you are. You're a secret club of people who've read that book. Like, I can bring you all the fancy, neat quotes, and you can think you've gotten everything good out of the book, but me and everybody who's actually read the book still have that secret sauce, that secret together time, that intimacy beyond intimacy, because we don't, it's not explicit to see. You see, there's a thing there.
824 begins the VICO-HEROGG2 GG2. So Mr. Griswold suggested that he had stated that like he felt manipulated when I suggested that elections could be a topic. The only reason I did that is because I wanted to be able to link to a post where I discussed the opposing view.
All right,
Right.
wait,
So
whoa,
because I
whoa, whoa. Okay, the only reason is a shift into justification mode, which is something I'd like to avoid. Um, it's I'm not making accusations. I'm making observations, and so I don't need you to justify them for me. Um, that you feel the need to justify them means you is something that should be examined.
um, because I understand that the elections there was cheating in elections, and I've kind of reported on it a little bit. I wanted to prove that I could represent either side of the issue, and um, and you laughed at the idea that it is hard to still man the mainstream position. So the thing is about the mainstream position is that nobody is willing to talk about it. No one is willing to defend that mainstream position. Um, it's kind of a tell that it's not a very good position when nobody's willing to have a conversation with you about it. I've done this with smart people, and they ultimately end up at a point where it's a matter of trust. And who do you trust? And which sources of information do you trust? And that's a peaceful conversation where different um, positions or perspectives are being shared. Um, like you can't have a conversation with these people who are presenting this official mainstream position. They don't think about it, and if you attempt to show them how these other perspectives are valid perspectives just as much as their perspective, they will either ignore you. Well, that's what they'll do. They'll either ignore you or they'll admit that there's multiple perspectives. And my experience is that most people will just ignore you, and then they're not they're not worth my attention.
This there,
My
that
attention is very valuable, so is yours.
is Um, but yeah, it's that signal. There's nuance. There's a whole lot of new. There's like a whole chakra full of nuance to that signal that needs grokking. Done this with this people. You've see this. You're this approach you're trying to teach. It's supposed to be a Minerval Arts experiment where I do a thing and then you steel man against it, right? From and then you put the mainstream box in it. And I guess my big point at this point is you're not that big of a fish, small fry. Um, Check out my conversation with Greg Enriquez. Look at how it hits close to home in our corner, and reframe your arena of conflict to something more appropriate to your own level. And the way that we can't perceive our own levels is important.
Um, you mentioned Mr.
Oh,
Griswold.
but if you want to talk about something that people in our little corner won't talk about, and why, ThinkSpot. What's up with ThinkSpot, Gavin?
Mentioned that, in the movie Gladiator, there's this, the idea that the bread and circuses keep the herd distracted. Um, and he said there has to be a system for the people that wake up. And Mr. Griswold said, "We'll build it if he has to." And hashtag me too.
That's fucking
Um,
adorable,
and then
Gavin.
there's the question of how to do that.
Gavin,
And
God,
um, like,
that
is it bad that
that Me Too was fucking adorable, sir. I tell you, that was adorable. Thank you. Thanks for that. Um, uh, there's the. Are you familiar with the concepts of compartmentalized knowledge? And then there's this one that's okay. Look, I hate this one, and I need everyone's help. Who sees this? Transition. What are you doing? Transition. Okay, there we go. Program, preview, and program. Okay, program. Listen. Roll your savings throw. Need your survival. It's 15. Social 8. Sophist 13. Heart 17. That's prime. Okay. Um. Sorry. That's part of the confessional part of this video is that bringing out the whole spaceship makes parts of me turn on that aren't supposed to be here for the experiment. Wow, and now I don't remember why I did the pattern interrupt. Biden, compartmentalized knowledge. The value of it. Oh, fucking. This limited hangout bullshit. It's what it's called. It's like they look like somebody who talk about everything, but there's a lot that's they're very limited to what they'll hang out about. I don't. It's a shitty term. It's hard to work with, but that's what it means, and so we need a good term, and that's what I need your help with. It's like something to grok the way it's like they're the facsimile of the conversations you think you can have, and when you look under the surface, there's nothing that you can't have the deep conversation that you're looking for, or something. Whatever.
we are offensive, right? To me, that's kind of a filter. Uh, you don't want the biggest YouTube channel. You want to have um, a small YouTube channel. Like ideally, the size of your YouTube channel is like the size of the number of people you can have relationships with. Something like that. Um, that would be pretty good.
What you are you Ewing there? I mean, different people are gonna. There are multiple purposes for a channel, and multiple things you can do with a channel. Like I've found, like you want 1,000 subs just to unlock the superpowers that come with as you level up. In subscriber count, you get more features. Like I had to hit 500 before I got community posts, and so I think we want to be able to get everybody to 1,000,000 so they can have the full feature set. Then what they use it for after that is, you know. And like guys, remember, ignored subscriptions don't cost you anything.
The bigger it gets, the more likely you have people in your um, and I'll take back the ideal size, but the goal is that you want people who are not easily offended, because those are the people who deserve the circuses and the sporting events. Um,
The word the word deserve in that sentence is a red flag.
okay, Schmachtenberger did a 4-part series about channeling and naivety signaling. Um, that I'm I can I'm interested in that. I'll go look at it since you mentioned it, and we can talk about it. I did a quick look. It's going to take time. Um, Naivety signaling. What comes to mind is um, the idea that I can have a conversation with the most powerful and important person in the world. Might be naivety signaling. Um, the I think it's naivety if you expect it to happen, but it's also naivety if you don't give it a shot, right? So if you just want to have power um, and you aren't willing to do anything about it, then that's pretty naive. Um, so that's even more naive than attempting to connect with the president of the United States, right? Which, I mean, I do that. So I've attempted to connect with all kinds of people. And the most interesting part of this might be the
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, because you're on the Grim recording. Uh, the Schmachtenberger bit. Let me get confessional. Okay, transition to confessional. There you go. All right. I remember seeing you complaining somewhere about like documenting your attempts to communicate with Schmachtenberger, and I got a little bit of a C16 boner when he went on Pretty Boy Williamson's podcast and said that shit about the Predator, which ties back to that deserve red flag you just threw. Um, because that he was coming out saying that, little felt like a little C16y, and we were looking for a new Peterson at the time. um, and then so he goes after the Williamson thing. He does this 4-part with Stoa, and he goes deep into his own like they piranha him pretty good. I didn't give it the attention it deserved at the time, but I gave it I saw enough of it to know there's gems in there, and I need to go back to it because um, I'm doing my own layer of naivety signaling work, and and I'm kind of like a canary. I'm things have gotten so bad the canary's going off, and so like despite like I'll flagrantly abuse. You guys see what I'm doing. You're not blind. Well, depends on who sees this. But so what happened is Toronto Kurt of the toe with the toes and the aliens. He went for Reiki then aliens. It was beautiful. Um, he was supposed like he was starting up, and I was infiltrating his Discord the way I do, and he him and Schmachtenberger talk never worked out, and so I have this like, ooh, look what agencies won't collaborate together angle. And between Castrop talking like Ra and uh, him going aliens and aliens being in the Ra stuff. I'm like, these guys won't. Oh, anyway, it's a pet peeve, and it's making me a naivety signal, and so like you going through it and then me going through it because you went through it is how I'm trying to get myself to go through it. Buddy.
Earbuds. I am using Bluetooth. And Hog Farm, the acronym Hand of God Field Agent Requisition Manual. Um, so I've I've had these thoughts too. Sometimes, I wonder. It's interesting that um, thoughts and ideas that are good, they're like a wave, and many people can find that wave and surf it. And so I feel like often uh, there are people on the internet like Mr. Griswold and myself who end up on a very similar wave. And when you see someone else on that wave, you can be tempted to think, that's my idea. But as the great Jordan Peterson said, or one of the great things he said is, don't mistake yourself for the wave. Um, but yeah, we're on the same page with this.
Yeah, baby,
And
but some of us ain't surfing yet, and
Consumer
some of us
Reports, I just
are.
happen to work with some people who, or at least one person who has like 5 different sets of earbuds. And based on my operating system and my phone, and my needs, I knew that I couldn't have these uh, Apple products.
Yes. We outsourced it. I'm fast forwarding through this shit, Gavin. We outsource like our field requisition stuff to our con specifics in the environment. That makes sense. However, like you said, the gear list for going into a thing, I'm saying the gear list for our work.
Defines work. So Apple devices, they just won't work. Recognize what doesn't work.
That was that was that was
Um,
that was a beautiful skip run. Thank you.
but yeah, I've
Serendipity.
actually, uh, I'm into like, I had an idea yesterday for the pod. Like I talked to Jason about pod people, and I've been talking to my wife about pod people, and I've been watching people who hike the Appalachian Trail, and the question is, what's the minimum amount of things that you need? It's like I'm tempted to get rid of almost all my stuff. Um,
Yeah. It's not just
Bows and
your
arrows,
family stuff, pal.
uh, tools. I've got
But we'll make good use of it with the commute.
dog stuff, a list of everything you need. And if you're interested, people present their gear list before and after doing the
Yes,
Appalachian Trail. But I
precisely.
had an idea for, I'm an inventor, so I want to take those air pads that provide insulation, and I want to
Yeah, get it. Send it to the patent office. We gotta talk about patent and copyright someday.
pack. One thing to note is that these hikers, they will often change out their sleeping bag and their shoes as the weather changes. So, you're kind of stuck with um, this idea that some gear is dependent on the situation. Um, what would be nice, I've thought about these things for so many hours, but it would be nice to have a place to keep your gear, and then people can request the gear. So you basically have this supply of gear, and people make requests, and they can receive it as they need it based on their.
Yes, that's the agency logistics, sir. That's agency logistics. There's no agency, but we still need the logistics. Precisely.
Role in their environment. I actually presented this idea to the people at the Arsenal.
See, when I was screwing around on my Google Plus days, I formed a super team. It's the it was the pandemic code. It's out there somewhere. Um, and one of those was a lady who could speak finances, and like she wrote a book, and she's like, it's like this thing, the thing with the naivety signaling and like trying to talk to high status people, like the approach thing is like there's a your relationship with those people has a character that forms within every interaction. And so, like, I don't want to use my contact with her until I'm ready to use my contact with her. And that's part of the game, the unseen game that we need to see well enough to build tools to navigate if we're going to have a hardware store that people can requisition stuff from.
When I used to work there, because I wanted to be a operator and I wanted to design basically the kit for the field operators who would be, able to, you know, basically get in and monitor the missile defense systems in the field. And I'm also reminded of the people who have the visors connected to the drones that are flying through the buildings. And I've I've invented the suit that allows the president to dodge bullets. And it's like I have thousands of ideas. But I like this hog farm. We can start.
You can't tell we just low key said they got drones flying through the buildings. Well, I would rather be talking to one than my laptop if, budget wants to get a hold of Grimgriz.
Building it out. Um, Jason wants a tower, and I think
I think, thank you guys. I think Grimgriz wants a tower too. A dreadfully distinct tower. Dreadfully distinct against the dark.
there will be people living in pods connected into the virtual reality, doing their training, their education, maybe their prison sentence. These virtual realities are going to be very useful. And then some people will get addicted, and then the people who are with the Holy Spirit will end up jacking in, just like in the Matrix, and they will try to encourage people to get out of that simulation, which is full of immediate gratification. Hey, Webster.
That's the end of that. Have that kid just give him dictionaries for Christmas. Say it was from Grimgriz. Because I want everyone with the name Webster to be able to give me definitions on command. So please train your child up appropriately. Train them in the ways when they are young. Etymology is key. Demolition Man is my recommended viewing. You have a lot of the metaphors. Imagine okay, but you know how they were running around in the ships and they had to use the EMPs on those things that kind of look like beholders. I just kind of thought, man, Minerva,